And here we are again. And yay, she's there. She's up here. She's happy. Great. She got some very great news earlier today. So she's
I'm
happy.
I'm sorry. I pulled an old lady move today. I got through with some running and stuff, laid down, said, "Oh, I'm only going to take a nap for about an hour." Woke up about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, that happens. That's not really an old lady move. That's more of like I'm dog tired, but I'm not going to let anybody else know that I'm dog tired.
Well, y'all know it. I'm dog tired.
Hmm. Yep.
you know, but yes, heard from Kablam today after I don't know what Clip Studio Paint's going through right now, but I will tell you, I've been so all over the place trying to get this book in a printable shape, and I thought I had it, and I thought I had set it to the right dimensions, and unfortunately, it was not. It was um, half an inch too wide and not half an inch too short. Called myself going back, resetting it, re-editing the old pages, and sending it back, only to find out it's still too dang big. So, luckily, the amazing Jenny got hold of me and she said, "Well, you know what? The blurriness issues are fixed." So that's all taken care of. And what's going to happen is they're just going to make it as a magazine size, which, they're not charging me anything extra. It'll still print out really well. And it's just going to be larger, which is, it's a 66-page book.
Hmm.
So, magazine size isn't going to be bad. It's bigger than manga, but it's about what the old double size issues, if I remember, way back in
Well,
the
that's
day.
that's thickness. You're thinking thickness.
No, not just thickness, but they used to back in the day. We're talking um, late 60s, early 70s, back in the way back, actually 80s, whenever they did what are now become graphic novels, but when they did a comic book version of a popular movie, they used to put out a very large, sort of a magazine size issue. So it'll just be like an old size copy of what Raiders of the Lost Ark.
No,
And Joe has disappeared on me.
it'll be about this size. It'll be about that size.
Okay.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm
that's
saying. That doesn't matter. That's like it's like if you think of graphic novel size, graphic novels are normally magazine size. So that's why I went
yeah.
back there to grab.
Okay. It's like, and Joe ran away on me. Hi, it's the Elaine Show tonight. On the Elaine Show, we have Elaine.
Yeah. No, I went to go grab example because you up here. It's like, oh, it's about double size thickness of it. Yeah, thickness is going to be it's going to be like a double sized comic, but the actual page dimensions is going to be more like a old school graphic novel, or if you collected like the old Warren Publishing like Vampirella
Vampirella.
or the Spirit
Also,
and stuff like that is going to be that size.
it's also the size that Marvel used when they did their versions of Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Mhm.
the Star Wars movies, rock and roll movies like that.
Mhm.
They put them out in that size.
Right.
So it's not even Mad. It has
Yeah,
always come
that
out in
went
that.
from an actual comic size to the magazine size more so than anything else.
Yeah. So
So
it was.
you got kudos on your tagline here. So and
He
he said
read.
he has seen some magazine size, and that we're going to bring up a little bit later here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I trust me. I'm going to find this guy called Hiatus, and I'm going to kill him.
Before you kill him, let me torture him.
Okay.
You know, not so much that he dies, but because you get do the killing. I just want to hurt him really good. I'm gonna let Joe explain it.
Well, we're going through another transition here at Comic Book Spectrum. And one of those transitions is that as of this week, we have our latest person that is going on hiatus, which is Clyde. So now we're in a kind of like a trial, I wouldn't say trial period, but experimental period, where it's going to be myself, Elaine, and Cliff. And we're looking for new people because the whole goal, when even with Clyde still being here, was that we're going to have kind of like a rotational panel for this show here, because that way there's going to be some nights I could just run the board and not be seen and heard and everything. They can have their conversations, and then there's other times where Elaine can't be here, Cliff can't be here, but we have a full panel more so than anything. Which brings up the whole thing that I was about to get ready to say to Carl. It's like, remember way back when we had that idea of comic book rainbow, when we was up here joking to Brian K. Morris about, butterfly in the sky, I could go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a comic book rainbow, and we could have did that with you, me, and Donna. That's still optional. That's still up in the air. I mean, it's like I do have the reins here for Comic Book Spectrum, and we could move more towards like the more non-traditional standpoint where we have people who are not as well versed, but could come back and could actually reflect on comic books of yesteryear and revisit some of those books for like comic book reviews and stuff. So what we talked about in just can't actually happen. So that's where we're at as of right now. Where the show goes from here, we really don't know. I'm not going to put the show on hiatus here. Also, next week is still going to be kind of up in the air. I still got to talk to Cliff about next week, because my gut feeling is to postpone. But if we could put together a legitimate show for next week, we will have it. But I understand because that is also the week of C2E2. So next week is the week of C2E2.
Yeah,
I
you.
understand. I understand what Elaine needs for C2E2. For me, this is just going to be like no other week. I probably still be, I could still make myself available for Comic Book Spectrum. I definitely want to make myself available for from the desk on Saturday.
And
But go ahead.
understand what Joe is doing is he's definitely putting himself out there work wise because he has to work. And Thursday was it when you this year, like last year, we get Wednesday and Thursday for the big setups.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but still, that means he has to get through an entire work day and then run down, set everything up, and try to make it back in time because he also has to drop badges off for me and Courtney and then make it back in time and be like, have enough energy. So come 7 o'clock, he's like, hey, there, it's Joe, and it's on Comic Book Spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at him like, okay.
It's like, don't you realize I need to go to bed for I could be that type of perky with brand new candy bars and everything at 8 o'clock in the morning come Friday?
Hey, we went to Dollar Tree today.
Okay.
To get like things that like coffees, so that we can when we get up there at 7:30 in the morning, we have little cakes and coffees that so that we get our caffeine and something in our stomachs. Because I am not Senator Cory Booker. There's no way I can be up there for over 25 hours and not eat or drink, not at my age. That
Mm-hmm.
was just, dude, respect. But um, we have to, in order for us, because Friday morning we're taking the train. because we're taking all. Luckily, I don't have half as much stuff as Joe has. Um, so and I don't drive, which means I get my little cart that I put my laundry and my groceries in, and I pack everything in that cart. And we are getting up at the crack of crack Friday morning to
Right.
get that 6 or 7 a.m. train so we can get there in time, because I don't know what it's, there could be a lot of people there because it's a bit, this is Chicago's Comic Con, or there might not be as many people there because maybe not, people would have bought their tickets and whatnot, but travel may be a little difficult. So we don't know what we're going to run into. So we could get there, because last time we got there right around 7:30 and there was a line already formed. I don't know if people got there and were camping out the night before or showed up
But
as.
but that's normal for general attendees to show up to camp because they want those exclusives, especially if they're limited exclusives. They want to be there to, as soon as they could walk in, run over to whatever booth, grab whatever exclusive or pay for whatever exclusive and come back out. Or if it's like an exclusive signing or something to that magnitude that only lasts 1 or 2 hours, they will get there at the crack of dawn here. But to be quite honest, for us to be there early is really more, for at least the way I look at it, is really more so for promotional purposes, because you never know when local news outlets will be there. Especially for shows like this, they want to probably talk to some of the more local vendors as well as some of the more high end type deals. So you never
Well,
know.
also this year, in regards to the entertainment year, end of the C2E2 is going to be pretty big, because you have Critical Role, who, you have fan favorites. Critical
Mhm.
Role is going to be there. They'll be signing um, and whatnot. And then you have the Hobbits. Our four Hobbits, our lads, Dom, Billy, Elijah, and Sean are going to be there, along with John Rhys Davies,
Mhm.
who is the Intish Gimli. Uh, People who know the movies will know that. So they're going to be there. And I took some gruff for it, and I don't care. I just don't see where there's a Breakfast Club reunion
Reunion.
that's happening. And it's like, it's not sci-fi. I get it. It's big with the fandoms and with certain fandoms, and it's a nostalgia thing. But to me, they're not sci-fi, fantasy, or horror.
They fall up under the general aspect of pop culture, and that's where the problem lies at. Because again, C2E2 is, if what was it, comics, Chicago Comics and Entertainment Expo, so they're part of the entertainment
Entertainment. But
aspect of it.
I will still say, I just, I if they had told me that, say, Linda Carter was coming, I'd be like, yeah, you know, if Bill Bixby was still alive and he was showing up, or Lou Ferrigno, or even David Hasselhoff, I'd go, yeah. But it's just, I get it where they're coming from. They're looking. It's a lot of these guys. The documentary Brats came out around late summer, early fall last year. They're trying. Some of these guys are trying to are trying to jumpstart careers again. You know, trying to make certain comebacks. Some of them are trying to keep their careers going. Um, but it's just, I don't know. To me, it's just like there are so many shows. They could have brought the folks from Critters.
But again, it's again, pop culture is pop culture. It doesn't fit in the, if like I say, really the, like you said, the comic, sci-fi, fantasy doesn't fit into any of those, but it is still pop culture. But then again, you know, some people would say that pro wrestling doesn't, because remember a couple of years back they had this big AEW, when AEW first started their company, they had this big AEW thing at C2E2. Some people could complain about that, but it's just pop culture, if whatever is popular at that time.
So
And
yes,
besides, they're trying to bring older folks out there to have something for them to remember and to have wax nostalgia on anyway.
yeah, that's all we need. A bunch of 80, a bunch of people in my age group or in their 70s with their walkers. Hold on, Grandma's got to get. Hold on. I got to get my oxygen working, right? Okay, move.
And that's the kind of like the thing that, you know, they're trying to do here, because they're up here saying that, well, you know, Gen Xers will remember, you know, will remember this type of stuff. It's like, yeah, we remember it, but at the same time, you know, it's kind of like one of those things that's like, why should we care?
Well,
You know,
that and
I'm not
we
saying
see it.
that the Breakfast Club wasn't a good movie.
No,
It's just,
it was a great movie. It was John Hughes' film. Hughes was great for his Chicago movies and stuff, and that Brat Pack was born under his stewardship. So, in regards to that, yes, but the fandom in one way is aging out.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, people who don't know a dang thing about comics. And,
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfectly fine. You know, I mean, that's the whole thing. You know, comic book spectrum is really, it's like the reason why I became kind of like the backup to the original four was because I will watch the show and they will always talk about horror comics. I'm up there like, I'm not a horror fan. I'm not a horror fan. So give me some type of reason to go out and buy a horror book. And that kind of flipped the script a little bit, because now they're not just saying, oh, how I like this horror book. They're up here, it's like, this is what I like about it. And I hope that you might like it too. Just like I came in and say, it's like, here's a comic book that has a female lead in it. This is why I like it. I hope that you try it. You know, those are the types of things that I really like about comic book spectrum, because it's not just about everything that one person likes. It's about sharing what you love and getting other people to participate as well, you know, to partake in it. So, you know, if you don't, like, you know, what Donna says, like, you don't know anything about comics, it's like, hey, if you find something that you like, come in with what you like and tell us why you like it. You might, you know, start a whole new fan club, you know, of a brand new book. You never know. Yeah, so yeah, we would have no problems. Yeah, have to take a week off. That's the thing. On my own personal show from the desk, I haven't really taken a week off, and I don't really plan on taking a week off. If
and
anything, I
again,
might be late starting, but never taking a week off.
he's gonna be tired because we don't shut down Saturday until about 7:30, because we don't get to shut down until they've cleared the last of the fans off the floor. So we don't get to shut down until everyone is gone, which means we break everything. We do the basic breakdown for the night, and Joe will get home around
About
just maybe,
eight
if
o'clock,
he's
about like
lucky,
8 o'clock, 8 o'clock,
8:30.
8:15.
Yeah,
So if I
he'll get
haven't ate
home.
anything or anything, it's like get in, eat something, and just jump right into it.
We will have some sodies and snacks and stuff, so he won't be totally starving. I will not let him starve. If necessary, I'll bring an IV kit and
No,
keep
well,
him
you know,
going.
she Elaine knows how we do things, because between myself and her, we have stuff. We have water, we have soda, we have they like drinking coffee and stuff. I might bring orange juice, because again, we have to have that vitamin C, because why? Not everybody that comes to these shows is 100%.
And Courtney actually picked out something more of a dried fruit health foods type snack. so that you can partake, because I gotta have my chips. I'm sorry. Especially if I'm sitting out, if we're sitting out there all day. Um, I offered to, terrorize or beat up somebody if my sister had somebody she really hated, because I'm still about $100 short. Um, but we have at least the bare minimum of what we need, and if necessary, McDonald's, we can do McDonald's for like $6.
That's if you need food. But knowing how I would do it is like, maybe like the day before, like on a Thursday, I might go to like a Jules and get like honey wings and bring like a bucket of honey wings
Okay.
or something
we,
like that.
we were trying to decide, because it's like, we figures Friday will be our big cart everything in day and then set it up.
Mhm.
And then Sunday will be our big cart everything back home. And then Saturday is just like, do we need more copies of books? Do we need, is there anything that in our inventory we need to replenish? Um, so that will bring it in either Saturday or Sunday. You know what?
Yeah,
All the
Molly is
Hobbit,
all yours, Carl. If you decide to show up,
if you
I would
show
I
up,
would just
Molly,
look the other way and say I don't know him,
you know
and I'd
what?
be like I don't know him.
I will whack security for your sake. If you want to show up and get your hands on Molly Wing Roll, I will just, I will pop a security guard for you. I just don't picture Donna in a walker. I don't picture Donna in a walker, though I could have used one today. It's a rollator, not a walker, okay?
Roll it to her.
Hey, I was running around with, I have a leatherette backpack thing.
That's a good idea because normally, like I said, I might buy like one or two bottles of Gatorade, but they will be gone like the first day.
I
I'll
can't
probably drink
drink,
them all over the first day because you're constantly going, and it's like,
and it's weird. I can't drink Powerade or Gatorade because they mess my stomach up. And
mhm.
I don't want to spend, half the day running back and forth to the bathroom. So it's weird, the things that my stomach is like, okay, I can manage that. And and the things that my stomach is like, oh, no, 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 we won't be taking that in.
Yeah,
Yes, Carl, I got a big butt and I cannot lie.
yeah. She takes the Rolly Walker aid so she could sit anywhere. Oh yeah, I know
Yeah,
which one you talk about. I know
we
which one
see a
you
lot.
talk
I
about.
see a lot of people.
But that's the cool thing about that thing because it's not really a walker. It's a seat. It's a mobile seat.
Except I see people with those get on the bus, and those things fold up.
But they don't want to fold them up.
They don't want to fold them up.
Why? Because
So
it's a seat. And they was like, I'm going to treat this like a wheelchair and take the whole wheelchair spot. I was like, no, you don't.
no,
You
you
fold it
can. That
up.
thing
And
collapses unless you. And I've seen some people. It's like, I get it. You're going to the store. You're not getting a bunch of groceries. You're gonna put your groceries on that and transport those home. Fine. But on the ride up there, collapse that thing. Just collapse that thing, because you're not the only one getting on the bus today.
they don't want
And
to.
then you wonder why folks is giving you the stink eye.
They're giving them a stink eye anyway. That's just like everybody with these big old strollers with like 50 different bags in it, and you can't see the kid. The kid is so tiny in the stroller, but all these bags are just draped over it, and then the blanket over the bags, and all of they're like, it's not a shopping cart. It's a stroller.
But when, as a mom and who has kids who are 3 years apart, I get you having to, you've got one kid barely walking, and you've got the other in the stroller. And I get traveling is hard, but again, those puppies collapse. And I don't know, maybe because my kids we were in Northern California and then LA. When people saw me collapsing the stroller, they would help me get the boys onto the bus. Hey lady, you need help getting your kids on the bus? Okay, I'll stand here with your kids while you pay. Or you have the money here. I'll make sure you need a transfer. Okay. They would go, give me your bus fare. They would pay it and then get a transfer, whatever. There were people were nice enough to do that because they saw I was trying not to be as less of a burden
Hmm.
to the people around me as possible. Um, but when you get on and you've got these two seaters, oh,
She got the deluxe model.
girl, if it comes motorized, I swear I'm gonna come to your house and strangle you.
See,
That's
see,
the
but that's California. You have not been on a CTA bus where you have three and four of them getting on back to back to back to back. I talk about four
What do
different
you mean
mothers with
I've not
four
been on a
different strollers,
CTA bus?
and there's no room, for the strollers in the middle of rush hour.
I ride nothing but the CTA bus. It's for me, riding the metro has become my luxury of travel when I can afford it, because that's the one thing I love about the metro, um, is you don't usually have the same congestive dealings that you do when you're riding the bus. And baby, I live in the hood, so it's nothing to see 3 and 4 moms get on with their stuff, and it's before they get downtown, so they haven't even started shopping, and they won't collapse the strollers, and then will stand there and look at you like somehow you're the problem. And it's like,
It's
you know
like you're
what?
in the way. That's like I'm just trying to get on the bus and I can't go to the back.
It's and I'm like, baby, I'm 64 years old. Do not make me have to make your kids watch me give you a beat down. Because
No, no,
you done got on my last nerve today.
even worse. It's like you see somebody that is like 80 and they can't get their seat because the stroller's in the way.
The strollers in a way they can barely walk. And we see, I mean, I've grown up seeing, you see the adults who are in their 70s, 80s, some even in their 90s. Because I used to live on the north side, and taking that bus, that 151, you would see a lot of the older Jewish Americans getting on and off the bus, and they couldn't stand up straight. They were bent over like this trying to get on and off buses. And you see them, they're struggle because they can't sit down, and they barely have the strength to stand, let alone on a moving bus that for some drivers love to hit them brakes whenever
I mean, last minute.
Bob Newhart, I can't remember what album it's on, um but I'm trying to see if I can find it on YouTube. Bob Newhart, one of his early albums, he did a routine where he was a driving instructor for the CTA. In my earpiece,
Oh, hold on. That surprised me.
wasn't me. um, he he was a driving instructor for the CTA, and he was and he was singing like, "Oh yeah, that's it, slam them buses and send that old 50-year-old tumbling back," and whatnot. It's hilarious. It is hilarious, and the funniest thing about it is as prevalent today as it was in the 60s when he originally recorded it.
Because that's how they are taught. If you ever watch or rode a bus where you have the brand new bus driver and their trainer, some of the things some of these trainers be telling them, you just up there like you just shake your head, but I understand why.
Well, my sister, I will say, my sister Lisa. Hey, Lisa, even though I know you're not watching, uh, is a driver for the CTA. She because now she lives in the north suburbs with my mom. She gets some of the nicer routes, Austin. She's not driving. What is it? She's not driving Milwaukee. I forgot what she's driving now instead of Milwaukee. Um, but she tries to be more respectful of her writers, and I like that. And she's seen that come back to her because she's had a couple, especially nowadays, she's had a couple of times when people have gotten on and being disrespectful because she's a woman of color, um, and she has had writers, those who ride with her regular, get up and tell tell folks, here's your bus, here's your bus fare, go wait for another bus, you know because you're not messing with our driver. My she makes sure that she does her best to make sure everybody is okay. So you can't get up here talking that smack. So she has seen loyalty among her writers, and I try to make it my, unless it's a really idiotic driver. Um, I have tried to do my best to, whenever I get on the bus, to say thank you, or have a good day. Either thank you when I get on, or have a good day when I'm getting off. So it's like, yep, I see you. I see you trying to do your job. You know, Though there are times I wish I could be like an Olympic judge and hold up paddles to show ranking.
Right. It's like this one today was an 8. This other one was a 2. No.
It'd be like, that chickie, what was it last year during the Olympics when they were introducing breakdancing, and I forgot what
Oh,
country she was,
what
the
was it? What,
chickie in
I
the
forgot. I forgot.
green.
I forgot
Oh,
The Australian one that they gave a hard time to. When I'm just up here, it's like you guys don't understand. She she have won several competitions in Australia,
yeah, but
and
it,
she was doing something unique and different for the Olympics that was different than anything else that everybody else says. Like, oh, she's not good, this, that, the other. It's like, have you
well,
seen any of her other
the,
competitions?
the sad
And maybe try to
matter.
put two and two together to see, like, she tried something new, she tried something different, it just didn't work.
But that was the funny thing. It's like, okay, you were the best your country had to offer in this competition, which doesn't say much for Australian breakdancing. But it was, and I will have to say, there's that part of me was like, okay, um, I don't understand why breakdancing became an Olympic thing unless they think this is, the Olympic Committee thinks this is a way of bringing in younger viewers. But it was just like, okay,
Well, again,
just
people don't realize that Summer Olympics is really broken down into two categories. You have your traditional games, and you have what was, I forgot what how they used to state it here. They weren't transitional. They were more of the, not really recreational, but they were expository or expositions more so. Like, for example, karate is not a traditional sport. It was an exposition that they gave medals for.
yeah.
Breakdancing kind of falls up under that category.
But karate, at least martial arts, have now become part of the more classic.
They have officially moved over to traditional, but not. But you understand where I'm getting at. Just like, I think this upcoming year they're up here talking about NFL players now could play in flag football in the Olympics, and I'm up there like, I don't know about
Well,
all of this expositional sports now, just for viewership and everything.
yeah, to me, it's a little bit like, and it may get to where, the Olympics may just have to not be the television event that it was when we were kids, because the viewership for it is aging out. Yes, you do have an influx of athletes for it, so you have the competitorship, but yeah, not as many people are tuning in, and I've gotten to the point where, I only tune in to specific events. I will tune into the gymnastics events. If I've got time, I will tune into gymnastics. I will tune into diving. Um, I used to love the decathlon events and stuff like that. So there were events that I would tune into, but there were a lot of events that it was like it was, and also because depending on where they were located,
Mm-hmm.
the schedule was just like, okay, I am not sitting up until 2 a.m. in the morning, and I get it. It's on that side of the world. So that's when they have, that's when they're if you want to see the coverage as it's happening, you have to be up at 2 a.m. in the morning to do it. But it's like, no, mama got to get her sleep. you know Otherwise, I'm like Dracula the next day. And believe me, these children, they're not happy when I start biting folks on the neck, you know, because I need some sustenance in order to deal with the sunshine. So,
But here's the other thing, since we're going to bring up the Olympics in that aspect here. As generations change, what is considered a sport also changed too. Because when I think about, let's see, anything after millennials, there's not a emphasis anymore really on, if I could say, track and field anymore. There's really not an emphasis too much more in like diving, rip 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 rhythmic gymnastics, and all of the sports that we grew up watching and having people train years in.
well,
Yeah,
I
people
remember.
train years in those sports like archery and everything, but it's not as focused. Now, if we're going to go into like the expositional sports, and this is kind of like the direction that I'm seeing the Olympics going in. We're going to start seeing more things like esports. We're going to start seeing more people who play like Dota and Street Fighter and all
Oh
these other
God,
video games going.
The
Things
League
like
of Legends.
Magic the Gathering and stuff like that going over to the Olympic level,
I was about to say League of
because
Legends is
it's
already at it. If you think, I saw part of the League of Legends
mhm.
kickoff, and that was already like a mini Olympics. If you think about, they had an opening ceremony where you had all these great bands and stuff, and they had it was a whole big production thing, and then they introduced the competitors, and then of course they had the closing ceremony. So yeah, but I also remember when sports that we now take as being part of the classic were new. Rhythmic gymnastics, when it was introduced, people were like, "Oh, please, that's not real
But see,
gymnastics." And then, but and then it started catching on.
people
Um,
people used to scoff at things like beach volleyball and tennis because those were expositional sports in the Olympics. And when they say, "Oh, you're going to the Olympics to play tennis," right?
well,
And,
it's like,
and that's a big thing now. Beach volleyball used to be like really scoffed at. It's like, what's wrong with 6-on-6 in a gymnasium? Why it have to be beach volleyball? And then that became a big thing, and it finally transitioned over.
what is it? Not motocross, but
BMX
the
biking.
BMX racing. I remember when BMX, and it's so funny because I now, I'm one of them older folks. It is so weird to be on this side of the conversation where people look at me like, okay, boomer. Um, 'cause,
And, and, and
I remember when BMX got introduced. I remember when
Oh, that's another one, snowboarding. And
snowboarding.
I'm waiting for skateboarding because I have a sneaky suspicion if Tony Hawk ever wins a gold medal in the Olympics in skateboarding, he will retire from skateboarding.
Well, is he still out there? Because I was about to say
Tony Hawk is
Tony
still
Hawk
out
is
there,
is in his 40s now, and I see
more close
some.
to his 50s.
Okay, and I see some of those kids coming up under him, and
Mm-hmm.
their skills. And it's like, no, baby, you about to get wiped off the floor. I mean, I could see him doing an exhibition to say, as one of the people who started this and brought it to the fore, because of that group, he was the standout guy, and maybe have him do like an exhibitionary thing to get, to say, oh well, Tony Hawk is going to show you how the level at which they're going to be competing, and then have him do an exhibition. But I don't see him, he's in his 50s. You don't, I've even seen him do interviews where he's talking about, there are certain injuries you don't come back from as easily at this stage of his life that
And
when
that.
he did when he was in his late teens and his 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And he's made enough. I mean, he's had video games. He made a ton of money
He is his
off
own
video.
franchise.
Yeah, he became his own franchise. So I would just feel worried.
I have to give Carl. I have to give Carl props for that one.
Yeah,
That might be an Olympic sport. That should be an Olympic sport. New Olympic sport: competitive Facebook trolling.
The Chinese and the Russians would be taking those medals, because the best we have is maybe 5 kids, 5 like 15-year-old boys in Downers Grove. For the American team.
Can you just imagine the headlines? The miracle on the keyboard. Five 15-year-olds from this rural suburb wins gold medals.
The Buffalo Grove 5 have dominated competition so far. Hold on. Charles, we're talking about future Olympic sports. So so a friend suggested competitive Facebook trolling. Oh, the face he just made. I wish I had a camera on of the face he just made.
Emergency. Tony Hawk has broken his hip. Yep.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm not sure if Tony could survive. I'm not sure if Tony could survive making Tony a judge. I think. And Tony should
But
definitely
he
be a
still
judge, and
skates.
he should.
That would surprise me. He actually still skates at a high level. He doesn't do all the aerobatic stuff like he used to do, but he still skates at a competitive level even at his age. And it's just like, I just don't get it.
It's his dedication to the sport. He is very much like the grand poobah of that sport, and he does.
We have
He
to
not
break it
only
down for the younger people because I think the younger people don't understand surfing. Grand Poobah is an old surfing term for the best of the best at surfing.
I did the now.
And Parallax happened to show up at that time, talking about he needs to go home. He's a crazy old man.
But he is like, to that younger group coming in. He is like their Buddha, because he from what few interviews I have read of his, he not only talks about it, his love of it is almost religious, and he does often talk about the mind-body connection in skateboarding. How for him it is like Zen yoga, or it's meditative for him.
It's like I thought the Grand Poobah with the head of the ball.
It's something. It was, and then the surfers started using it.
The surfers actually took it over and used it as
Yeah,
like the head, as the whoever is the best surfer at that particular shore at that time.
And then the skateboarders picked it up, and I think even the redheaded kid that is
Yeah,
still leading
Kona,
snowboard, the
yeah,
big Kahuna,
Konoha, yeah,
Kahuna.
Konoha, yeah.
Um, even the yeah, big Kahuna. Even the snowboard kids use it. The redheaded kid. I call him a kid, even though he's in his 30s, heading on his 40s now. But he dominated the snowboarding world, and I think now
Oh,
he
I know who
he
you're talking about. I can't even think of his name.
he had the red hair.
The first person that I pictured was not him. I was picturing his female counterpart because his female
Oh,
counterpart surpassed him so many times over. It's just ridiculous.
she you just look at her and go, oh. But his that red hair stand makes him stand out. But he's become sort of a
Sean
kahuna.
something. Well, I just
Yeah,
remember Sean something. It's just like I can't remember his last name.
and I think they've done. I think he's had a couple of games done on
Sean White.
Sean
Yeah.
White, yeah, and he's had his own video game and stuff. He's gotten kind of to that sort of mythic level. Yeah, it's snowboarding. He's
Mhm.
like he's the kahuna for snowboarding. And George and we have our kahuna. We have Joe.
I'm not a kahuna. I'm still trying to chase after a lot of other individuals who came before me.
You know. Oh, we have to. I think we have to discuss Clyde. I don't think Clips not. Clips said if he made it tonight, he would be late.
Right.
So
No,
I
I think no, I thought we discussed Clyde. I just kept it short and sweet and to the point.
okay.
He's actually on hiatus, and it's going to be a very long hiatus. It's not like he's going away permanently,
No, he
but
and
but it's just too much going on too soon, too fast, too soon. So that's why I say I'm going to find this guy hiatus who went in there and attacked Clyde Beria. He's going to die. He's going to pay.
he's
He's going to pay.
Joko make
I'm,
him
I'm, I'm
pay.
going to be. I'm going to be just like Riley Freeman. You got to pay what you owe, hiatus. You got to pay what you owe. Yeah, he's the carrot. Carrot top no variant.
But I'm happy to see him do well because it's a specialty sport.
Why I'm just
Oh,
picturing Donna on that rollerator on a half pipe now. It's like really watch this. Like,
I was just
and then she dismounts and she just takes a nice calm seat like this.
and she
Now
lands
what?
it, and the
And
crowd
she
goes
come out like, now
wild.
what? Now what?
That should and that would be her got milk commercial. Now what? You got milk.
Hmm. Why would Clyde Variable fall? We gotta find this hiatus guy. We gotta find him and we gotta stop him. I
Uh,
don't think it's solely based upon that here.
yeah, I have a hiatal hernia. Um, I got mine from having babies.
Yeah,
So,
no, I don't think it's really
but
because of that. It's just
but
it was in general. It's just a lot of other stuff that went into his hiatus. It wasn't just health
no,
or anything for that
it's
matter. It
just,
was like a lot of other stuff that was going on.
and he wants to, and I get it. He wants to spend time with his grandkids while he still has the health and he can get around with them and do more things, you know. So I understand it. I feel bad because, he was definitely, I like our energies were balanced pretty decent, but it is what it is.
Yep.
Um, you know,
Tony Hawk is going to be at X Games. Power roller. She ain't right. She ain't right. She's not right. But it might happen. But no.
It might, but like I said, I'm looking at him thinking, dude, there are kids out there now, you should be, there's a point at which it's like, it's like the older surfers. They keep surfing, but they also train, the really good ones. That's why they're called the kahunas, because it's not just, oh, watch him go. It's like, there are kids out there in California, Hawaii, because there's one guy who lives out in California, and there's another guy out in Hawaii, and they just flock to these guys to like, hey, will you train me? I'll pay you. Because, and they're not looking to become, professional, but they want to be able to get out there and do it, and do it well. Um, and surfing, and these sports are also their own communities, because with the snowboarders, oh, bye, Carl,
Bye.
hugs, bye, Donna.
Yep. I guess we about to go into our second hour because they normally leave right
And
about that time.
before I forget, I will be posting from C2E2. No live video, but I will be posting pics of the cosplayers. One of the reasons I'm getting there early is because I can get around and take pictures of the different booths and whatnot that will be there. So for those who can't be there, you can see what it is, because I have friends and relatives who have never been, you know, but have asked me questions about it. What's it like? What are the type of people that sell stuff there? So I love taking pictures and say, hey, these are the cosplayers who I caught wind of, or this is what it looks like from my perspective on the floor. Because I still have family members who are like, why do you do this? And sometimes I just have to shake my head and go, because I'm crazy. You know, I'm crazy. Um, I have a book recommendation, sort of. I don't have the book, but it's not an individual book. As we know, Mad Magazine is they are no longer an active book. They are no longer putting out an active month by month book. But what they are doing is they are, I think it's like every couple of months or so, they put out a best of issue. And if you go to your local Jewels, um, and some places like I don't know about Walmart, but Target, um, I might go live on C22 or do a whatnot. Oh, okay. Joe, you just put that on camera, so it's going shh. You let the cat. Okay, fine. But
No, no, no. I'm not guaranteeing it.
oh, okay.
That's the reason I might, but
You
I'm
might.
I'm not guaranteeing.
So you heard it here, folks. He might. We'll know in a week, though. We will know in a week. But Mad Magazine, as I was saying, is they are putting out best of issues. Um, and so they're putting out like best of the 50s, best of the 60s. And current issue that's out that I've seen is Spy versus Spy, which I haven't been able to grab it because I just, every time I see it, I don't have the money. I'm hoping I make enough money at C2E2, buy stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, because I want to go to Jewel and get that copy, because I loved Spy versus Spy. Spy versus Spy has long been a crack up of mine. They used to they were the size of the old Archie Digest comics. Um, and they used to have Captain Klutz and the Spy versus Spies. They would have a collection of them and put them out. And I loved them. So yeah, if you love the old magazine, or you just, Spy versus Spy was a favorite of yours, go check out a Jewel, check out a Target. I You can probably find it on Amazon. I didn't have time to check. Usually I have time to check. But yeah, so that at least is out. If you're looking for some old mad to enjoy, they're not doing current stuff, but they're making collections of their classic stuff and putting them out there. So if you're a lover of Mad and you can't get the old books, you can get collections that they're releasing. Um, and because I got a collection of, I think it's their 60s, 70s stuff. And one of the things they had in there was an article talking about their Alfred E. Newman, where that came from, and the point that and the fact that they had the publication has faced a few lawsuits regarding Alfred's face, because that face is their trademark. But they face their own share of issues with it. People suing them and saying, "Oh, this is my whatever ever, and you don't have the right to use his likeness or whatnot." And that was an enjoyable read. So I would say it's good to kind of go get their best ofs, because you will find, and along with those classic bits, you'll also find the occasional piece in there that gives you sort of a behind the scenes look at what they were dealing with at the time putting out these issues. So I will definitely give that a recommendation. Da-da-da.
Okay. And on that note, we're about to get ready to get into our second hour. And one of the things that I'm going to make starting off, we're going to at least do one comic book review, but I could do probably three if
Well,
need.
you can do three. The only thing I wanted to put out also for my horror fans, which means I know this is not a Joe thing, um, but Impact Winter is still a good read. And if you can't find, and you can find the books, if you can't find it at your local comic book shop, or you're not sure if you want to get into it, um, Amazon took the original podcast version and put it on Prime Video. So if you're just kind of curious about what it's about, you can find it on Prime Video. And thanks to that on Prime Video, it has proven, along with the books, to be popular enough where they just released about a month or so ago the next volume as a podcast for Audible. And I'm not sure when the next books are going to run. But yeah, if you're looking for good vampire horror comics, Impact Winter is great. And there are different ways you can get into it. So, if you don't want to invest in the books, but you've got a Prime Video account, I would say watch Amazon's production of it. And then, you can go on the Kindle, you can order physical copies through Amazon, you can get it. I know, I checked. But it is, and because I only have it digitally, I didn't have anything. I wasn't sure how to send Joe the thingy so you can put it up there. I will try to figure this out for the next one so I
Yeah, I
can
mean, just
send
send
you
me
up.
links, pictures, whatever. I'll figure out how to work with it within Streamyard. That's the key thing here.
Oh, and before I forget, And the Coming of Nighttime is available on Amazon on Kindle. You cannot get a print copy from Amazon, which is not my fault. Amazon's comic book reader thingy keeps chopping it up into bits, and no matter how I put it together, they keep reckoning my double page spreads, and I don't know how to make them behave. However, um, since the Kindle version is working, that will still stay up there, and somebody actually bought an issue the minute I posted that it was live. So thank you, sweet, kind lady who bought that issue. Um, But after thinking, I am going to put it out on Indie Planet as well as both a digital and a print version. So after, but that won't go live until after C2E2 because there's just so much to do. Plus, I have a household to manage, and I am working out my next two projects, which is book two of that comic and another project called Heir Apparent / Chronicle. So, yes, I am constantly doing stuff. I'm also making little paintings that I'm taking to C2E2. So I is busy. I is very busy. But so people know this is where we are. And of course, Amazonia will be out in what, another month or so?
2 to 3.
Okay.
Because
But
again, I haven't started penciling. I haven't started
okay.
penciling after yet.
I for some reason I thought, but AWF Saturday night.
5 will be there.
Yeah, 5
The
will
new issue of 5
the
will
new
be.
issue will be premiering just like Anna Coming of Nighttime. Those two books will be premiering at C2E2. So if you can make it to C2E2, come. You know, um, if you go to my page, amazon.com/author/Elaine Haygood, um, if you go see the Amazon link for the End Coming of Nighttime comic, there is a free preview that you can look at. So you can see that part and make a decision whether or not you want to buy it. As for AWF, I did the editing. I was riveted. I was so riveted, I didn't respond enough to Joe. He
Yeah,
still
she
hasn't
wasn't
forgiven
her
me.
normal self because she was like, "I'm busy. I'm busy. I don't have time for snark." I was like, "But that's what I get. It's like I get what the standard person would say when you are snarky, and when you have that eye of, hey, why is she twisting that instead of twisting this?" and stuff like that.
I still apologize because it's like, okay, you know what? I'm still trying to get, and I was actually, at the time I was editing for him, I was still editing my own comic to try to get a print edition up on Kindle. So it was like, okay, I got to set that aside. I'm going to do a lean, clean edit. I'm just going to cover what absolutely needs to be covered.
Hey,
Hey,
Don.
Don. And just, I'm not going to waste his time because he doesn't have, we don't have time for our usual 4-hour phone calls to go over it page by page. I'm just going to put it out there and send it back so he knows I've done the job.
And she did her job. She did her job because, like I said, normally if I'm calling based because like she was like, "You saw this," and I was like, "Yeah, it was about this, and this." I was like, I never thought about. And I would say something like, "I never thought about it that way." And,
Yeah.
and she's up here, it's like, "Well, if you don't like it," it's like, "No, it's not about if I don't like it. I just try to work with it. I try to work with it. I try to make it more than what is actually on the paper." And she doesn't understand I'm working my magic at that same time.
But
And she's up
it
here
was
like, "Well,
just,
you don't have to follow." It's like, no, you're right. I just trying to work that magic in there to make it like really stick.
yeah, we've had some interesting, along with my editing, we've had some interesting phone combos. And as an editor, my job isn't read it once and that's it. I will go over a book as many times as maybe 4 times. I will do 2 reads before I actually start editing, just so I can get an idea of what the rhythm of the book is and where he's going, especially because if you think about his comic, especially AWF, because a lot is invested in the action, um, is trying to edit the dialogue while not slowing down the action because it has a flow. And I also, as an editor, I always, as a writer and an editor, I always think about Dickens, and Shelley. It's not just telling a good story, but telling a good story well. And so wanting to make sure that I don't wreck the flow, that I'm not making edits that will wreck the flow of the action, because it is action is very important to that book. When you're reading the dialogue, it shouldn't take you out of what the action that's happening on the mat is. It should explain what you're seeing, but it shouldn't just take you out of it. Because if it takes you out of it, I haven't done my job right. You know.
Well, that leads me to one question and one question only, just to make certain that fans understand what you mean by that. Should they look forward to the South Side curve stomp? I remember that comment. You gave me that one comment in your notes.
Well,
That's like, I really like that name.
well, as someone who has since about the age of 9 spent time in a Robert Taylor Homes, which was a project that
It was
lines
kind of
Main
brutal,
Street.
wasn't it?
Who had lived in a Robert Taylor Homes. I've lived in the old Ida B. Wells Towers. Um, and I also lived around 60. I actually, the Keanu Reeves movie Hardball,
Mhm.
I actually lived just a couple of blocks from, there's one of the kids gets killed. And there's a scene where they are coming out of a church. I actually lived a block away from that church
Okay.
where they shot that scene. So the exterior of that. So believe me, when he said Southside Curse Stomp, it's like, oh yeah. It's like
She didn't say it's
I
like,
felt
no,
that.
that doesn't look right or anything. It's like, I love the name for that move.
I
That
felt that
was
pain.
spot on. That was spot on. It's like,
I felt that. It was like, oh yeah, I get that where that's coming from. There are people, it's like folks in New York who, because they live in Bed-Stuy, like our friend George Lopez, who live in Bed-Stuy and whatnot, they're gonna get an idea of what you meant by that. So it's like, yep.
it's a certain moves that it's like, if I name them a certain way, there's a reason why they get named a certain way. And that one is just like, I couldn't think of anything else, but it's just like, it's just a weird form of a curb stomp. That's pretty much what it was. But it's not something that you want done to you. Really.
They start using that in WWE, we will know what they're reading.
No, they actually have a curb stomp in WWE, but not in, if they do that in
Oh, like I said,
WWE,
we'll
I'm
know. We
suing.
will know.
I'm
We
actually suing. I'm
and
actually suing because I named that move. I actually literally created that move
I will
as
tell.
a form of what they have already done previously, but not in that same aspect. And I was like, I don't think they could get away with that, because if it's done wrong, it will hurt the individual very, very much.
I was thinking of that. It's like, oh, she could have killed. A normal human would have died from from
No,
that move.
well, the thing about it is that it's the way that the move has to be done. If it was done in a actual ring setting, she cannot put any weight on that, without giving the move away. She can't put any weight on that one on that one
With the
foot.
setup, you have to be very careful about the setup to
Right.
make
You
sure
can't
that.
put any weight on it. So it's pretty much just like, you just kind of like, go, kind of, just kind of like going with the flow of it. And then when you hit the mat, your other leg takes all of the brunt of it.
Like
It will look nice, but if you put any weight on that other foot,
you
that other
ain't
person
walking.
is done for.
You
It's done. It's
you
done
are not. You
for.
are literally not walking out the ring.
Yes. And there's a lot of moves in primetime Saturday night that could be done that way. And it's like, I always go back to issue one, the cat of nine tails. The average person would not get away from the cat of nine tails.
No, no, no.
Somebody
That
moving
that
that
was that
quickly
was.
and hitting you, you know, 4 and 5 times at the same time. You're not getting away from that.
Yeah, that was. Whew. Okay,
And
I'm trying not to
that's
be.
why I love how I explain, it's like only a few people can ever get out of it, and you have to like really kind of like be trained to deal with it.
Yeah. So yes, I have, given my recommendations. I will also say, for those of you who are, if you're hobbyists, in other words, you don't know if you want to make art a thing, or you have a young person. And when I'm saying young person, I'm saying children as young as maybe 5 or 6 and as old as maybe 12 or 13. Five Below now has paint sets. Dollar Tree has art supplies. You can find some stuff at Five Below. If you got a little more money, go to Family Dollar or Target. I know we're not happy with Target right now. Um, but there are art supply sets, especially from Crayola, that are good quality. And there are a host. If you're sitting there and it's like, well, yeah, I see these paints and stuff, but I don't know where to start, and I don't know. Start with beginner sets, start with the cheap stuff, get an idea of it. Once you have an idea of how these things work, because yes, the cheap stuff is cheap, but when you're just starting out, you're not looking to spend what Joe and I spend on supplies. I buy supplies, you know, you don't want to know how long I had to wait till I had money to get those acrylic markers. And I was watching videos of people with those acrylic markers. And Joe hasn't even got them yet. But Joe, I'm thinking I might bring them so you can at least play around with them
Mm-hmm.
while we're at C2E2. So you can get an idea of how they work. I was thinking if I have some extra artist trading cards, that I could bring, and then the markers, and you could try them out and see how they work at least. So you can premiere them. There's nothing wrong with using. That's what I'm trying to say. Start slow. Start with the beginning level stuff. If you've got kids, let them start with the beginning level stuff. And if you have a kid's teacher who gets up and says, oh, they have talent. Understand, them telling you your 7 or 8 year old has artistic talent isn't the same as some teenager who has artistic talent. And ask them, what are they using? Don't just, if they say, oh, they have a gift for art, ask them, what medium are they using? Because if you buy the wrong thing and the kid doesn't know how to use it, buying, even beginner oil paints, and oil paints, any set, even water solubles, are not cheap because it takes a lot to, you need specific brushes. It takes a lot to, you can't just rinse those under the sink. So when they tell you that, ask them, what medium, what supplies are they using? That way you have an idea of in other words, ask that teacher what the kid is using and where do they get the supplies the kid is using. Because that way you have an idea of what to get. Because dumping a bunch of supplies on a kid, and they've only, if they're using crayons and you show up with a bunch of, Copics, the kid is going to be lost, and they're just going to sit there because the kid doesn't know anything. The kid doesn't know how to use alcohol markers or acrylic markers. You have to meet them where they are. And if you're looking to get into it, don't think about all the fancy stuff that's out there, the Arctics, the Ohuhus and stuff. Get the Crayola kits for kids. Crayola has kits that you can get. Um, I think the first time I got a love for art was I did a paint by number set when I was a kid. So start with a paint by number set. Start slow and work your way in. And then there are a ton of people doing videos of art out here, whether you like traditional or digital. There are a ton of people out here. And if you're interested, come to my channel, Elaine Haygood. Ask me for a list. I will make a list of the people that I follow, And I will say this person, like if you don't know about, do you want to do comics? Mark Crilly. Mark Crilly. Man has been making comics forever. He does graphic novels. He's done initial comics and stuff. Trent Kanuga, you know. Also, he wrote his first comic when he was 16. So, there are a lot of artists out there and they have tutorials. You can go, and a lot of them have a ton and a half of videos. So you can go back and see some of their early stuff and get an idea. White Manga, I talked that brother up forever because he takes you through what his process is, not just, and now for those, because a lot more people are doing um, people of color comics. There are a lot more Black creators coming out. There are a lot of other creators who are also a friend of ours, DC Chen, this past summer, was wonking out about he was doing a person of color and he wasn't sure about the hair. And at that time, White Manga started putting out videos about doing black hair. And it was like, oh, here, check these out. So believe me, if you have an interest, there is a group or an individual on YouTube. YouTube is now Po Folks University. They have outdone PBS. Believe me, no matter what type of art you're into, yes, this is that's a classic,
See that,
and
that's what I wanted to bring up here because you want to know how people like me got their starts. I remember when that first came out. Well, it did not when it first came out, but that was kind of like one of the things that kids wanted was the Crayola Caddy.
oh yeah, because
Now, the two things that I definitely had as a kid between my brother, and my sister, people don't remember the designer kits.
oh yeah.
These actually came with the drawing board. It gave you a sample T square and everything. It gave you, the triangles and everything. And you was like tracing actual designs and everything, but it still allowed you to be able to get into doing your own artwork and everything with it. So it came with like the actual designs and tracing methods where you could do like the big rigs, the racing cars, spacecraft, space shuttles, and everything. And then they also had one for design, which is dealing with rooms and interior designs and whatnot. They don't
Also,
make those anymore.
no, but you
These are
can.
things that I would suggest for if for a little kid to get started, invest in something like that because they won't grow out of it, and the manuals are good enough. It actually literally tells you how to use each one of those instruments that's in there.
Crayola does have a kit now. It's not as extensive as the old Create kits that had crayons and markers and the little watercolors and acrylic paints. But there are updated kits. Like if you have a kid that's into markers, and Crayola's watercolor markers are great. They're vibrant. They go well with pencils and crayons and stuff. I have used them with my more expensive ones and whatnot. Crayola does put out stuff. This past holiday, I gave a friend's daughter a little art kit because they were like, "Oh, she's into marker art." So I found a Crayola marker kit that had paper and markers and stuff, so that she at least had the supplies that were geared towards her age group because she's a smaller child. So they're thicker markers. They're easier for little hands to hold. And that's one of the things I really love about Crayola. Yes, the Dollar Tree, if you're going to Dollar Tree or Family Dollar, sometimes those watercolor kits are not in good shape. So you have to look at them carefully. But and there is a guy who has done videos where he's bought those exact little watercolor kits and painted his own copy of Starry Starry Night and other Van Gogh and other paintings. And no, they're not museum quality, but he has shown, oh, guess what? These colors are vibrant. If you have this talent and you just wanted to get into it, you know, until you make a decision, because believe me, really good Prismacolors, my next set of Prismacolors, if I'm lucky and get them on sale, will cost me about 120 bucks. You know, so this stuff is not cheap when you're working at this level.
I'm showing the Prismacolor markers here.
I
These
have
are anywhere between, if I could say it in this aspect, between $3.50 to $6 a marker.
I have two
The
sets.
sets run you on average, depending on what colors you need, $70 to close to $300 a set.
Yeah,
They're not cheap.
and they're cheaper than Copics, because if you had a complete set of Copics, you would be paying upwards of about 3 grand
Mm-hmm.
for a set of Copics, which is why if people come to me and say, hey, my whatever is interested in doing this, it's like, you know what, start with watercolor markers. And you can get some decent watercolor markers from Crayola that, you can get enough colors. And just so you know, um, Sharpie is now putting out its own range of acrylic markers.
Yes, they are. So that
And
that comes back to my visual aid.
so yes, they're out there. You can find them, and while some of these they're not professional quality, because maybe they're not as light fast, they're not as vibrant as um, the more professional qualities. They don't have the same level of pigment in them as others do. Doesn't mean you can't do good art with them. And sometimes it's, if you're learning to do things, it's very seldom that someone just draws something and then slaps on some marker on top and it's done. um, I do a lot of underpaintings. I've been doing these little bitty pieces, and I have done underpaintings along with the sketch underneath. I do the underpaintings in acrylic and then finish them out with my Prismacolors. um, I work like that a lot, especially if I'm doing something professional. The piece I did for Joe has several layers of underpainting and blocking out, because when you're working at that level, you it's not just one. It is very rare you can see an artist do something. And if you look at what the Metropolitan Museum and other museums now have channels on YouTube, and they are finding with technology, they're able to see the underpainting of a lot of paintings, and they're showing, oh, wait a minute, there's at least 6 different levels, and at this point they changed the painting. So what you see at the surface, when you're able to look underneath, you realize, oh, okay, so they blocked it this way, but then as they were finishing it, they had to make changes, so that what that person started out with and what they ended up with are oftentimes very different. And that happens. That's just part of the process. So, start where you are. You do, if you've got $25, believe me, $25. If you go to the right places, I used to recommend Michael's, because their beginning artist loft stuff was really relatively cheap, $5 for things. They've gone up now, and they don't sell all the stuff like they used to, but that's okay, because most people can get to a Family Dollar, a Dollar Tree, or a Five Below. Like I said, Five Below is now offering watercolor paint sets. You can find it out there. You can find it out there. You just have to take, and if you're not sure, come to us. Come to my channel, come to this channel, hit one of us up, come here. Hey, I got a question for Elaine. Blah, 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 blah. Believe me, we will answer it. We will answer it. Okay. And I'm getting off my soapbox, because, Joe's going to tell us about some good stuff to read.
No,
And
no,
if we're lucky,
I'm going
he's
to
going to
show.
give us
I'm
a
going to
really
show
good
one
rant.
other thing here. I'm just going to show a couple more things here because you may mention a Five Below because again, you'll be surprised at what you could find at Five Below. It's a lot
Yes.
of stuff that you could find at Five Below here, and every so often, I will find something that there's like, oh, I know exactly. I know exactly what she's talking about here. So right now I'm looking at all the different art kits here. So there's stuff for like Bluey for stepping stones and stuff to that magnitude. I'm trying to get to where they actually have actual art kits here. I'm up here up under arts and crafts, but they have stuff for beads if you want to create jewelry. Here we go. We got like little bitty mini paint sets here for like 325. So you could paint like, it comes with the easel, comes with the actual art and a set of colors here where you could paint like crafts and different stuff to that magnitude. Then we get into the more, if I could say, the more in depth here when we get into like the pens and markers and stuff here.
Yeah.
So you got like 24 crayons for like $1. The changing markers where it goes from one color to another depending on the one. There's like a special marker that's in there. It would actually cause it to change color. So if it comes off red and you use the other one, you could change it to like yellow type deals. You
And,
could get
and
those for like $5
and
here.
the cheaper stuff is a great place for experimentation.
A 70 count of color pencils for $5. You can't beat that with a stick.
Oh my
You can't you
goodness.
can't you can't even get Crayola
I
at
think my
the 70 count
Prismacolors,
Crayola ones for $5 anymore. That's going to be at least a $10 ask.
I paid $75 for my Prismacolors. So yeah, you
And
know,
there's some crazy art, which is by Rose Art. Crazy art is the same as Rose Art. Neon bright markers for 3.
gel
And
pens. If
gel
you're into bullet journaling, get their gel pens. Primark has these. You can get blank journals from places like
watercolor pencil
Primark
for
and stuff.
$5.
Yes.
Watercolor pencil for $5. And now let me go to I know they also have sketch pads. Now, my only problem with sketch pads from these places is that the weight of the paper may
They're
not be the
cheap and
best.
they're light, but like I said, we're talking about stuff for beginners here. And if you're just
Even for
learning and
beginners.
you're just starting out, and also say you want to do a comic book, you can't afford because Clip Studio Paint ain't cheap. But you can say get Sketchbook Pro. You can still get Sketchbook Pro from the Microsoft Store for about $25.
Right.
If you can get Google, if you can't afford, because I know Word ain't cheap, but Google Docs, Corel, um, desktop publishing, you can get a basic Word document. Because when I first started comics, I did not have Clip Studio Paint.
I would go one better. If you can't afford Word, you can't use Google. There's nothing wrong with using Notes or WordPad. There's nothing wrong with that. And the reason being is that you need to make certain that you could type it out and have it on paper. You can always get somebody to edit a regular TXT file.
Yeah.
That's the major thing here. As long as it's in a TXT file, any word processor could open it up and read it, and you can have somebody edit it and do whatever they need to do here.
And you can put my first, when I was first doing And the Coming of Nighttime, and the the whale, which is the first little comic I ever produced, I did as a Word document. I did the artwork in Painter Essentials and then input the pictures into Word, and the and then just did the layout in Word. So you can do it. It can be done. It takes a little more work to do it, but it can be done. Start where you are. You can find it. If you're not sure, Come at us, sister. Tell me this is what you have, and I can help you figure out how to do it. But if you're just trying to figure out how to come up with these ideas, no, this is not archival. 50 years from now, this stuff is going to fade or start turning brown and whatnot. Though, if you can get yourself a basic little portfolio case, and you can go to Blix and they have portfolio cases for like $20 that you can store finished work in or store paper in so that they don't degrade as fast. So there are things you can do that will keep that stuff in good shape a little longer. But yeah, this isn't about archival stuff. This is you're just now learning. And a sketchbook, and I will tell you, yes, there are artists doing these tours of their sketchbook and they're really pretty. Screw that. Sketchbooks are messy. This is just supposed to be where you're working out ideas. I have at least 15 different sketchbooks going at any one time, depending on what I'm working on. And I will do rough layouts of a page on a sketchbook because I'm trying to visualize what I'm trying to do in a story, you know. So it's, don't
I'm just
sit
showing a
there.
sketchbook.
Yeah.
That's a sketchbook. But the one reason I was bringing up the whole thing about Nine Below is that I always recommend sketchbooks that will allow you to erase multiple times. I
And,
have used I have I have used some sketchbooks where you just cannot erase. It's just like once you sketch, it's sketched. If you try to erase it, it degrades the paper, and sometimes you can erase straight through the paper, and you're like, okay, I got to restart from the very beginning.
there's a
Type.
workaround for that. Yes, it will take a little time. But you can order it online. Blick sells their version of kneadable erasers, and that will, if you're doing multiple erasings and stuff, a kneadable eraser is great because it's kneadable. It's a little like clay. You roll it over the paper, it'll pull
But
up some of
but
that.
remember the goal here is kneadable erasers to me is not the same as the old rubber eraser tips that you put on like a regular number
But
two
that's what I'm
pencil.
saying. If you're using cheaper paper and you're afraid of erasing through it, you can get a kneadable eraser from Blix, their brand, not the more upscale brand, but their brand, a good size, is
Hmm.
about a couple of bucks. So
Right.
you're not going to spend. And all you have to do is get a little case. Once you open it out the plastic, get a little case that you can pop it in so it doesn't harden up. And then as you need it, it'll be a lot gentler. And then once you get an idea of how to lay out a page and you feel better, then go spend money on on some Strathmore Bristol board that'll last you.
You see how I'm good with the props now. You see how I'm doing the whole thing with the props, and then what else did you mention today? What else did you mention?
What kneadable? Oh, yes, a case, $20. You can get these for $20 at Blix, and you can order them if you don't have. Nowadays, it's a lot easier because when I was a young artist, you had to be able to come downtown to get art supplies because the only good art supply stores were downtown or out in the suburbs, or on the north side off a campus over by Loyola or something. Um, and you had to be able, and it was like, okay, I got to pay bus fare to get there. That's going to cut into my art supply money. But nowadays, you can go online. You can use your phone and go to Blix and order some stuff. And Blick has its own set of markers. Blick has markers. They've got pencils and stuff. It once your kid or you move up into the when you go past um, when you go past the beginner stage and you get up into that intermediate, start looking at who has their off brands. Blick's markers are their markers are as good as Copics, and they have almost as many colors. Ohuhu has really put Copics is really feeling the crunch because Ohuhu is putting out markers that a lot of artists are now saying, hey, if you don't want to spend all that money on Copics, go to Ohuhu because you can get a lot more. Artix was one of the first brands to come out with the acrylic markers, and their stuff is good. It's not cheap because acrylic markers are not cheap because of what is in them. But I would say once you are in that intermediate stage, start looking at Blick's brand of markers. Start looking at Arctic. Start looking at Ohuhu. There are different brands of markers, or if you're into paints, um, there are some you can get the intermediate kits for Prismacolors, and
Hmm.
you don't want to spend a lot of money on polychromos. There are home brands, Blix. You can go to Jerry's Autorama. There are lesser brands that have really good quality, and there are artists who do reviews of these markers and these pencils and stuff. Um, and if you're interested in something, it's like, well, they don't teach classes in that. Come to YouTube. Look it up. Type it in what you're looking for. Believe me, if it's a type of art supply, there is somebody doing videos on that supply. There's somebody doing videos exact, no
They
frills.
go a lot farther than what most people think.
Yes. So it's out there. And yes, I am very much a proponent for this because as a little Black girl growing up in Chicago on the west and south sides, I grew up in places, even as an adult with kids. I used to get my sketchbooks at Walgreens
Hmm.
because that was what I could afford at the time. When Mark Curley turned me on to Ticonderoga pencils, I was like, I was like, baby, I am in love. And I don't let nobody touch my Ticonderogas. I don't let anybody touch my Ticonderogas, and they don't touch my Colorays because I have to go get them individually. Um, but and artists and different artists have their own favorite things. I love my Colorays. I love my Dixon Ticonderogas. The black ones are my favorite. But I want to, it especially now because our money it doesn't stretch the way it used to. Though at my end of the economic spectrum, stretching is kind of a funny word, but you can do it. It takes time. Hey, and before you say, well, I can't, sweetie, there are guys in Africa
Hmm.
using basic printer pages and big pens, putting out artwork that make you go, wow. They found a medium they could afford and learned how to work it in ways that most people would be sitting there going, dang, you can do that with a big pen? So it can be done, and it can be done. Start where you are. And if you're, like I said, if you're out there and you're not sure what to get for where, come to us. Come to us who do this professionally because hey, baby, I didn't start with professional tools. I had to go to school and learn things and then start figuring things out for myself when I got to a point where there were no teachers for what I did. Um, so yeah, it can be done. It takes some time, it takes some research, but you are not without resources there. Um and if you get to a point where you realize, okay, I've got my intermediates, I don't need my beginners, what do I do? Find a local boys club or a boys and girls club. Find, if at the very least, find a shelter that has kids and say, hey, I've got these art supplies. could your kids use some art supplies? Because one of the things that they don't have enough of at shelters is activity for little kids. So if you can supply art supplies, if you would be willing to volunteer an afternoon on an art class, believe me, they would love you to death. You know, so and I see
I,
Joe. Okay, what did you do this with?
I didn't do it. That was Don. I was
Oh,
trying to get
that's
you to
Don.
show you. I was trying to show
I'm so
Don stuff, and he
sorry.
kept going and kept going and kept going. I was like, okay. That's why I had to go.
Ooh,
Like, look.
ooh, I like that.
So that's Don. Don been trying to get back into the actual production of comics here. So he's been slowly working his way back into the fold here. So that's the reason
Hey,
why. That's the reason why when we started talking, when you started talking about this and cutting into the time for the reviews, because now we're just going to do the one. I just going to do the one that I feel that I need to do because
do the
I
one
know
you need to do. I have taken up enough time. I
no no
just
no the one that surprised me that at first I was like I thought I wasn't going to like it, but I ended up liking it regardless.
ooh. Okay, that's hey, that's new because sometimes he gets a book and it's we all live for his rants. So
And this one is key because this is the start of at the very top of it is the actual title. This is the beginning of the series of Godzilla versus America, and the very
oof,
first
oof,
one
oof,
shot
oof.
in that series is Gojira
Godzilla
versus
versus
Chicago.
Chicago.
So I ended up getting that. I pulled some strings and everything because I found out about it the the day before it was released, and I was up here. It's like harass one of my the person who pulls my comics, and he was able to get me one of these here. And the
How
book,
much is the issue?
the issue itself is $7.99,
Okay.
but it has four stories. They have four different stories of different occurrences of where people either came in contact with Gojira or actually fought Gojira.
He didn't go pee pee in the Buckingham Fountain, did he?
No,
Okay.
no. But I'm going to go over some of the stories here. So we got one of the Spenguli wannabes.
Oh
So that's why I had to get it because the way that it was sold to me is that a lot of the stories was going to be somewhat unique to Chicago. So the very first story was dealing with a Spenguli clone. I forgot what they called them in this one here.
no! Oh
Fanguli. They called him Fanguli and whatnot. So he was up here in the middle of doing a stunt and he ended up interrupting a Bears game where he ended up blocking a field goal, which would have won the Bears the game and everything. And people
no!
started hating him
Well,
and everything.
hello.
Yeah. So he's up here, flying on this contraption, flying around. And he ended up, getting into this one chamber where Mecha
Mecha
Godzilla was at.
Godzilla. Oh,
So he's
Mecha
up here, it's like,
Gojira.
oh yeah, let me get into Mecha Godzilla and this, down the other, and yada yada yada. So now he's up here, he opens up, and here comes Mecha Godzilla, and out of nowhere, after as soon as he revealed Mecha Godzilla, Gojira standing there. It's like, huh?
Oh
How? It's like, what? It's like, what are you? It's like Gojira's like, what are you doing here?
yeah.
So
I came
so
here for
this
the hot
wannabe
dogs, bro.
Spanguli
What are
thinks that
you?
he's gonna save the day and everything as as the pilot of Mecha Godzilla, and he pretty much messes up everything again. Gojira pretty much rips Mecha Godzilla another one. He tries to escape and everything. He gets on his parachute and fan again, the same contraption that he came over Soldier Field with. He goes back over Soldier Field, and people started seeing him again. They all started booing him again in the long run. And then this is where Gojira was like, this
Oh
dude is the
no, this ain't.
idiot. I was like, should I actually save him from himself? Gojira's actually had that type of thoughts, like, should I actually save this idiot from himself? So what he do? Blasted him. He
in Chicago, because you know the way you deal with Gojira in Chicago.
Hmm.
You
So
get him a big. You take him over to Portillo's. Let him get a Polish and some Polishes, hot dogs, fries. Get him a pizza.
well, this would be Gojira's first. They have Gojira's first encounter with L Train. So Gojira is like they're up here right on the L train. Gojira shows up and he's like blocking the L train, and he's like his tail ends up hitting the L train and everything.
Oh
And
no!
he takes most of it out. He takes most of it out and everything. And Gojira's
Oh,
like, what in the world? What in the world that he sees it taking off as if the L train attacked him. And it's like, no, it just happened to be ran at the same time. So he's going after the L train, and then
oh no!
other people came and helped in the helicopters and everything. So the L train finally got to its next stop and whatnot, and pretty much the war ensued. War ensued with the helicopters and everything, and the people that was on the L train escaped here.
Is that an
Now, the
amoeba?
silliest one out of all of them here is, Gojira was fighting this other kaiju liquid monster while it was still
It's
like it
like
was
an amoeba.
yeah, and that happened in Chicago and everything, and they're up here is like talking about the reports and everything to that magnitude, and they're up here is like, well, we got the Bridgeport signal line and all this other stuff, and they're up here it's like, well, what are we going to do? What we're going to do if he ever comes to to Bridgeport and all this other stuff. So they got all of these spotlights and everything.
All they
You
had to
know,
do was take us to the Sox game.
no, they're up here trying to figure out what to do and everything. And pretty much, he doesn't like all the spotlights and everything too much like Tokyo. He messes up Bridgeport.
Well, considering what Bridgeport has been outside of,
Now
Meigsville.
this story for Carolyn Cash is the one that was just like, yeah, it's over the top, but it's kind of feasible. So Gojira finds his way to Chicago via the Great Lakes and everything, comes up Lake Michigan and everything. He shows up, and then here, here's people who working at a hot dog stand. They're up here. It's like, well, what are we going to do? This, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, we might as well call it an early night and everything because Gojira's about to do the whole thing against the town and do what they're going to do. And then she's going home. Eric thought about it's like, oh, the next Great Chicago Fire, the whole attack with Gojira and everything. And she goes to the equivalent of J.J. Pepper, so they call it P.P. Peppers in here.
Oh,
And she
okay.
goes in and it's like, hey, I'm about to get this giant woman energy drink and I'm going to take it and go home. So she drinks it and she turns into a giant woman. And now
woman.
she's going to take on Gojira.
Good. Oh God. Oh my goodness. Oh
And
my
so
goodness.
it's hilarious because you know how you have like those wavy guys,
Yeah.
because she
Because
has
they
those
have
clothes on and wrapped around her and everything. So she grabs the Chicago flag and everything, put it around her
I
and everything. And
know.
now she's going around looking for
But
Gojira.
did
And
you?
then there
Oh.
Gojira is, and then she's looking dead at him. It's like, so they're up here. It's like soon it's going to be, soon it's going to destroy the city. It's like, not just the loot, just everything. So she's just up here. It's like, okay, fine, I'm going to drink some more of this energy drink. And she gets even bigger than Gojira and just tosses him back to Lake Michigan. Just like, go on home now.
Oh, that's adorable. That couldn't have been done any better if Mad Magazine had written it.
Nope. It is. So the next one in the series is going to be Gojira versus Los Angeles. So that's
Oh
the
my goodness, that
second
should be
book in
fun.
the series here. But all of these are one shots, and each one of these one shots are pretty much dedicated to the city that Gojira visited here. So everything is going to be unique to Chicago in this one, just like in LA, in Los Angeles, everything is going to be unique to LA. And for each city that he goes to, everything is going to be unique to that here.
Hey, chicken and
So
car
for
and a
it
car
being
won't
the very
go.
first one in the series and doing what it did, not to be really taken overly seriously, and the fact that it was 4 different stories all telling about the same visit and the different occurrences that did happen. It surprised me a lot because at first I was like, oh, this is going to be corny, it's not going to be believable, but this is somewhat believable. This is somewhat believable, except for the Finguli story. The Finguli story, I don't see that one being all that believable. But
Well,
the other
that's
ones, it's like this believable. It's like, what happens if he shows up and he accidentally hit a L train?
yeah.
It's like, can the people escape from him? What ended up happening? And they showed that. They're up here. It's like, oh, we're in the suburbs. We should be fine. He happens to cross into the suburbs and everything. So what are we going to do? It's like, we're going to have the spotlights to try to get the attention of all, of the troopers and everything. It's like, no, he's going to destroy the rest of the city because you annoying him.
Yes.
And then, the last story is what it is. It's like, okay, fine. I'm going to drink some more of this drink. Go home. He's like, Flick, go home.
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
The first Kill Bill, the battle with the Yakuzas, the kid at the end.
Did your mama tell you not to mess around with the cruiser?
This is what happens when you mess around with the Yakuzas. Now go home there, mother. That kind of has that feel to it, especially because she's a blonde. And my first thought was, oh my goodness, they kill Bill Godzilla. They just killed Bill Godzilla. That's just, I'm all for that. Now I gotta find. See, now you didn't kill me because that means I gotta stomp my butt in the first aid, which I was planning to do anyway, because I need to, once I get the physical copies of Anna Coming of Nighttime, because I promised to give one to James. Whether he would carry the book or not, I promised him a copy. And he's been waiting for like ever, because he was like, okay, when you get that copy, I'll see it. So now I can say, hello, the copy.
See, you don't want me to pull up with you, be like, hey, James, you remember how you kept saying, yeah,
here's the copy.
She was messing around with me to get this done. I don't mess around. I produce books. I'm at these conventions. You know how I am. She's with me. Don't doubt her ever again. Don't doubt her ever again.
He's been very sweet. But yeah, now it means I got to go and ask James if he's got a copy of that. And if he can hold it for me till I can get some money to pay for it.
If not, let me know, because I think I got some if like I said, some, if I could say, resources that could pull you a copy of it.
What I want to do is I would like to get a copy of that. And then, like I said, the Jewel at 75th and Stony has copies of Spy versus Spy. And I want to get that, but they're about $8. They're about $8 or $9. So I'm waiting until after C2E2. And then hopefully I will have sold enough comics, buy my books, so I can go get these other things.
Yep.
I'm also, I got, as I told you, I can now say it, I did get approved for my first business grant.
Yay. Oh, wait, hold on. Reminds me of Auntie
I never
Boo,
said him.
My, I have.
Okay.
Okay, that's just.
I have. CHA did approve my business grant proposal.
Okay.
I have jumped through all their hoops. I'm waiting to get my final supplier number from them. Once I get my supplier number, then they will cut me a check. My understanding is they will make it one of those new. They'll just pay it into my account, because they ask for my routing number to my bank and all of that. So it'll be an electronic payment. It's just, I've done all I'm supposed to do. It's just waiting for them to get off their butts and do what they have to do to cut me a check. But until they cut me that check, I ain't got no money.
So on that note, for surprising me with at least 3 out of 4 good stories up there. Now the Spenguli story is not bad. It's just more along the lines. It's like, that's stereotypical. And it's good to, good that Spenguli was brought up as unique to Chicago, but I could have did without it. But
It's
outside of
still
that,
more Steve and Gary than
mhm,
Spanguli, whether Jerry G. Bishop or Rich Coz.
mhm,
That seemed more Steve and Gary crap than what you would get from Spanguli.
exactly. It was just like it was what it was. But outside of that, I give Gojira versus Chicago a nice little hearty 7 scrocks out of 10. Now I wish. Now that's where I wish that Clyde was here because he definitely would have got that whole thing. That's part of his yell in the comic books.
Yes, yes. And Clyde, dude, you know, we we miss you, brother. We understand, but we miss you. We miss you. I'm just gonna say that we miss you. So hurry the hell up and come back. Uh,
Yep, that's how they spell his roar. Yep,
Roar, Skrunk.
Skronk.
Anyway, oh my goodness, we are actually within we
Yep,
are in our time limit for once. Wow,
exactly.
I did not kill the show today.
Nope,
I'm very proud of myself. I did not kill the show.
nope.
Um,
So
as it's been pointed out to me in the past.
no, you
But
didn't kill it. We're getting used to being always over the normal time here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just go ahead and end on a good note here. So let's go ahead and say our goodbyes here.
guys, thank you for showing up. Thank you for spending time with us, hearing us out. We love you. We love the fact that you show up, whether you come to the live show or you come check us out later. Remember, you can find me here on YouTube, Elaine Haygood. You can find me at my website, lenscaponline.com. If you go to the bottom of the page, there is a contact us. If you leave a message, it comes directly into my email and I respond. I will respond. Don't worry. In fact, if you have questions about, hey, how do I get started on this stuff, this art stuff? I will answer them. In fact, my first new blog is going to be covering, and I'm going to do a series of blogs on starting where you are and where to find stuff that you need. So, including, hey, I got stuff I want to make prints that I can sell at a show. These are the places you can go that will print your posters and stuff for you at a decent prices that won't break your bank, but will be good quality stuff. Okay, so find me. I'm here. YouTube, Lenscap Online, Amazon.com/authors/Elaine Hagen. You can find all my books there. Okay. Thank you. Love you. Catch you later. Peace.
Peace out. And let's not forget one other thing here, and that is Comic Book Spectrum does have a sponsor, and that sponsor happened to be Jeffrey Hayes of Plasma Fire Graphics. If you're looking for a graphic artist that can and will have graphics on your next upcoming book or comic that will bring people to the table, Jeffrey Hayes is your guy. If you don't believe what I just said, take a look at this here.
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasma Fire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
You've seen the illustrations. You see what he could do for you. Now give Jeffrey Hayes a quick little message on his website of plasmafiregraphics.com or visit him at his Facebook group for Plasma Fire Graphics. As far as I'm concerned, I will be back here Saturday. Why? Because I have already started on some of the stuff that's going to be here for new comic book pickups for the week. And it's a decent box of stuff that's going to be there. And you guys want to see it because I've been trying to fulfill collections and get things in better operating order for archival purposes and preservation purposes here. And like I said, the stuff from Cabot has arrived. So we're going to have that waiting for you on Saturday. And we're going to have a nice little topic to talk about here. One of the things is like it's so many different things that I talk to about many different people out there on it, from anywhere from whatnot to other YouTubers and everything to that magnitude dealing with comics, that it could be just about anything and everything. But I'm probably going to talk a little bit about C2E2 and then whatever topic that comes to mind at the time, depending on how it strikes me between now and then, as far as some of the topics here. And some of the topics that came up recently here was like, how to store like comic books. I have seen people seen one video recently talked about that. Another video talked about the difference within grading companies and everything to that magnitude, and the experiment that was done from the person who did it, who did a clarification video where people were up here drawing the wrong conclusions here. I might not talk about that one all that much, but there's a lot of stuff that we could. So until Saturday, if you show up from the Desk of a Small Press Publisher, I see you then. If not, we would let you know one way or the other. So I would say, temporarily, there probably is not going to be a show next Thursday, but you never know. You never know, because like I said, I still have to talk to Cliff to see if he's going to be available. If he is, then it may be a show. But like I said, tentatively, I'm saying no. But if you see the notification that we're coming on, we're here. So until then, and we got another last minute comment here. Yes, Saturday going to be a great show. Have a good night. Have a good night, Don. And for those who know my normal schedule, I'm about to probably go grab some libations, and I probably see you either over there at the Comic Book Pirate. For those who know who I'm talking about, for those who know what I'm talking about, that's out there in my chat as of right now, they know exactly who I'm talking about here. Or I might, stop by a couple other vendors out there or whatnot. But most likely, I probably see the good old Comic Pirate, or the dirty one himself, because I just saw that he's actually up and running and have his show on too. So it's a lot of stuff a lot of stuff going on here, and we're finally getting off the air for I could actually somewhat catch the beginning of those shows here. So until next week, live life, grow, and be well. And unlike Brian K. Morris, who founded this show, I don't care if you wash your hands, but never, and I do mean never, apologize for being awesome. See you next Thursday, right here on Comic Book Spectrum.